Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Lailatul Maimunah, one of the author of this paper, which is the challenges of multilingual student in social emotional learning. So I think this is it is an ethnographic review for multilingual student in social emotional learning, especially in Indonesia. So, for the content of this presentation or of this paper, I want to tell you about the introduction, the background, literature review, research method, finding and discussion, and the last but not the least, conclusion. So, before we move to the introduction phase, we have to know what do we know about multilingual student. So, as we know, multilingual student is the student who learn more than three languages, such as Arabic, English, Indonesia, Germany, and so on. So, what is the social emotional learning? Social emotional learning is one of the learning process that recognize the social and emotion to the student. So during the learning, student will learn about the responsibility to aware for themselves and to be aware about the social around them. So for the introduction, every student learns in a single classroom to enhance their educational experience. Also, having a diverse background, culture, and place of origin, especially when they are required to implement the use of various languages or multilingualism. So, in social emotional learning, actually, a lot of student comes from another background or other diversity, different background, different culture, and they have to uh, adapt their background to the social, especially when they are required to implement the use of various languages. So there will be any challenges or any obstacles when they use various languages in social emotional learning because they have different languages to learn and different languages to help them aware to their social implementation learning. Having multilingual student means teacher must adjust and control linguistic, culture, and social emotional obstacles. Applying multilingualism requires the application of social emotional learning. As I told before, that multilingualism or multilingual student they will have any obstacles and challenges when they learn in social emotional learning because they have to adjust their multilingual their various languages with the social and different culture. So why I take this research. So this is my background. There are research problem and research objective. For the research problem, why I take this title for my paper, multilingual learners have a variety of challenges that might affect their overall academic success and social emotional development, from overcoming limitation in language to navigating cultural differences. So the objective is this paper the objective of this paper is to examine the complexities of multilingual students' experiences in educational environment, to know what is what are the challenges that they face during educational environment and social emotional and multilingualism, the difficulties they encounter in social emotional learning, and the role of teacher to overcome them. So what is the role of teacher to overcome their challenges? For the literature review, I take three theory, which are multilingualism, social emotional learning, and sociolinguistic. For the multilingualism, being multilingual students involves learning multiple languages, which involves social, cognitive, and microsystem component. Because when they learn about various languages, they have to enhance their cognitive learning and microsystem component. Students' multilingual development is influenced by language based environmental and personal elements contributing to academic achievement, as stated by Deepmo in 2020. So, for multilingual students, the classroom environment plays a critical role in supporting their language and cognitive development. The next is social emotional learning. As stated by Greenberg 2023, SEL or social emotional learning promotes learning through school, family, community connection to achieve greatness in setting and encounters, focusing on meaningful and demanding curriculum and instruction, continuous assessment and relationship based on trust and collaboration. As we know, many schools from now on implemented the social emotional learning, so the student not only learn during the school time or the school environment, but they have to learn around their family and their community, their friends or another people. As stated by Goleman's theory, social harmony is a requirement for reaching a high collective intellectual quotient. So, social emotional learning, the result of social emotional learning is social harmony to the student. When everyone is aware of their environment, social harmony can be attained or can be taken. To be able to engage and contribute to society is a responsibility that each person has to himself. So, this social emotional learning is the important learning that everyone or each person has to have himself as their self as stated by Howard Gardner's theory. We know about the theory of Howard Gardner, which is the which is the multiple intelligences. There are eight multiple intelligences, and the social emotional learning implemented two multiple intelligences, which are the interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligences. Because intercultural collaboration can increase interpersonal intelligence to be aware of uh, oneself or to be aware of the people's self, and intrapersonal to recognize the social existence around them. For the sociolinguistic, as stated by Achewa 2021, sociolinguistic is the study of language and society. So there are a big relationship between the language and the society. It looks at how different languages coexist in a social setting and how it affects how people communicate and make decisions. Language use and the development of social identity can be influenced by social characteristics such as gender, age, area, occupation, class, and ethnicity. So the social has a big responsibility to build the emotional learning, and the emotional learning also has a big responsibility to build the social learning. Different language features might suggest membership in various social groups, and these group specific features are employed to present a certain identity to the outside world. So this is the research method that I take. This is there are observation, interview, and document analysis. For the observation, it took around 3 years for myself in my boarding school, which is Mamba Uswalihin Boarding School in Indonesia. I take the observation during 2000, after the COVID-19 pandemic until 2023, and for the interview, I take the interview to many students and teacher in Mamba Uswalihin Boarding School, and for document analysis, I use the personal analysis for my the analysis from me. For the observation, because of the pandemic 2019 until 2020, the limits of social interaction resulted in their limited ability or students' limited ability to implement various languages outside the boarding school environment. I took this observation in 20 and 21. In 20 and 22 and 20 and 23, students start to develop a sense of selves and become fluent in both Arabic and English in daily speech. Because in Mamba Salihin Boarding School, the implementation of multilingualism are in Arabic, English, and Indonesia as a help from them. So the Indonesia only for a help to recall and say what is hard for students. It results that some students still tend to turn to Indonesia or other regions like Japanese as a backup language. This result is the result of 2022 and 20 and 23. So I will show the interview in the next video. And for document analysis, per my previous personal analysis during my experience to be a student and to be a teacher in Mamba Uswalihin boarding school, students have to speak English for 1 week and then Arabic for another week. So this system, we call it the one language for a week application. And the challenges that they might find it challenges to retain the vocabulary they have learned in a week, because I think a week is not a long time to retain the vocabulary.
My name is Muhammad Safrodin. I am one of the student at Mamba
So
Australian Islamic Boarding
one of
School.
the
I am a multilingual student and I have been one of the English Language Development Department since 2021. Mm, I think that
what is the
multilingualism
impact of
can have a
implementation of
significant impact on
multilingualism in
social
social emotional
emotional learning because it can affect the way students understand themselves, others, and the world around them. They can be responsible for what they do daily by using various language as well as forming self and social awareness of the use of this language. Language become their helper in expressing daily activities.
What is the
For
challenges that
example,
students
in the
have
language
during
challenge, a
social
student is
emotional
expected to
learning?
apply multilingualism in his daily life. But in the challenges of developing his language skill, he is faced by a number of his friends who are still less enthusiastic or even indecisive in starting the use of multilingualism. Of course, the presence of this language application challenge will greatly impact the social emotional development of the multilingualism student. Whether later he will follow his friend not to speak foreign language or still strong with the principle of his field practice that may be in the future, he will look for friends who agree with him. This will have a real impact on social emotional learning when they can't communicate with their friend or teachers. How can they build awareness of the social environment? And they will forget awareness of the nature of their existence. Out of the few that I'm aware of, I think the Open Circle program, a social emotional learning initiative, is the best at helping children develop their social and emotional competence in the classroom. Through group exercise, conversation, and social emotional learning activities. The curriculum focuses on enhancing emotional intelligence. I selected it because, in my opinion, it fosters greater enthusiasm and enjoyment in its students' language practice, which is certain to result in the creation of new knowledge through their group conversation. My name is Muhammad Safrodin. I am one of the students at Mamba Australian.
So, for the finding and discussion, from my research method, which are observation, document analysis, and interviewing, I found that according to Dijkstra 2003, multilingual people can communicate effectively even when they must find the appropriate terms from a huge word library due to effective word selection procedures. But 60% of multilingual students at the Mamba Al Solehin Islamic Boarding School struggle with the expression instead of comprehension in other languages. One of them said, I find it difficult to express and process the words that will be conveyed. Their limited vocabulary made it difficult for them to use different language when interacting. So the challenges that they faced during social emotional learning, one of them is language limitation. And for the second, is linguistic discrimination. Multilingual speakers are more vulnerable to linguistic racism, which affect people in a variety of settings and emphasize the need to fight it with research, education, and emotional support, as stated by Costa 2020. One of them said, when I use one of the foreign languages that I'm learning, especially English, people tend to dislike me and make fun of me and don't even want to talk to me because they don't understand what I say and this makes them confused, which they don't know can get information well or can communicate with me better and more comfortably according to them. Linguistic racism refers to power structures that have an impact on health. So this linguistic racism is not only faced by low student but also high quality of student. And the last is teacher role. What is the teacher roles during these challenges? First is building an inclusive learning environment in the classroom. Education that is inclusive lowers inequalities and raises competencies which spurs creativity and protection. So the teacher has to build the inclusive learning environment that can respect diversity from diversity background or diversity languages. And the second is regulation in applied multilingualism. Emotions are self-regulating systems that enable quick reaction and situational adaptation and social interaction are crucial for acquiring the knowledge of norms and regulation that influence the system of regulation. So teacher can introduce them to the emotional regulation, so everyone can aware from themselves to implement the multilingualism and social emotional learning. So, for the conclusion, social emotional learning is connected to multilingualism. However, in putting it into practice, teachers and students will run into several obstacles in reaching the learning goals. Their learning may be affected by social and personal factors equally, such as linguistic discrimination that frequently exists among them and anxiety throughout making mistakes. It is the responsibility of teachers to identify themes and solutions so that students can learn more. In summary, comprehensive self and social awareness in students, as well as the role of the teacher, are necessary for multilingualism and social emotional development. So, this is the last I can say, and thank you.